The conflict between the Nagas and Meitei in Manipur is deeply rooted in historical, cultural, and socio-political factors, spanning decades of tension and sporadic violence. To delve into this complex issue, we must understand the historical context, the cultural identities of the Nagas and Meitei, as well as the contemporary political landscape of Manipur. Historical context. The history of Manipur is marked by a diverse tapestry of ethnic groups, each with its own distinct identity and cultural heritage. The Nagas primarily inhabit the hills of Manipur, while the Meitei are concentrated in the valley areas. Historically, Manipur was a princely state with a complex system of governance, influenced by Hinduism and Buddhism. During the British colonial period, Manipur came under indirect rule, and the imposition of external authority led to tensions between various ethnic groups. After India gained independence in 1947, Manipur became a part of the Indian Union in 1949, leading to further complexities in the region's socio-political landscape. Cultural identities. The Nagas and Meitei have distinct cultural identities, shaped by their history, language, customs, and traditions. The Nagas, comprising several tribes, have traditionally practiced animism and have a strong sense of community and kinship. They have also been at the forefront of movements advocating for greater autonomy and recognition of their cultural rights. On the other hand, the Meitei have a rich cultural heritage, influenced by Hinduism and later by Vaishnavism. They have a more centralized socio-political structure, with a history of monarchy and a strong cultural emphasis on literature, dance, and music. However, this cultural distinction has sometimes led to tensions and conflicts with the Nagas, particularly over issues of land rights, political representation, and cultural autonomy. Contemporary political landscape. In contemporary Manipur, the conflict between the Nagas and Meitei is exacerbated by various political factors, including competing claims over territory, resources, and political power. The demand for greater autonomy or outright secession by Naga groups has often been met with resistance from the Meitei-dominated state government, leading to a cycle of violence and unrest. The issue of territorial integrity has been a particularly contentious issue, with Naga groups demanding the integration of Naga-inhabited areas of Manipur into a separate administrative unit or even a greater Nagaland encompassing parts of Manipur, Nagaland, Assam, and Arunachal Pradesh. However, such demands have been vehemently opposed by the Meitei community, fearing the loss of land and political influence. Instances of conflict. Over the years, the conflict between the Nagas and Meitei has manifested in various forms, including armed insurgency, protests, blockades, and sporadic outbreaks of violence. The presence of armed groups on both sides has further fueled the cycle of violence, leading to casualties, displacement, and a climate of fear and distrust. Instances of clashes between Naga and Meitei communities have occurred in areas where their territories overlap, particularly along the Hills-Valley Divide. The issue of land ownership and control over natural resources has often been a flashpoint for conflict, with both sides accusing each other of encroachment and unfair exploitation. Efforts to resolve the conflict through dialogue and negotiation have been hampered by deep-seated mistrust, historical grievances, and the absence of a comprehensive political solution. While there have been initiatives to foster reconciliation and mutual understanding between the Nagas and Meitei, the underlying issues remain unresolved, perpetuating a cycle of conflict and instability in Manipur. The conflict between the Nagas and Meitei in Manipur is a multifaceted issue rooted in historical, cultural, and political factors. The clash of identities, competing claims over territory, and the struggle for political autonomy have fueled tensions and violence, resulting in a protracted conflict with no easy solutions. The Nagas of Manipur, like many indigenous communities facing threats to their security and way of life, have been compelled to take measures to defend themselves from perceived threats, including from Meitei terrorist groups. This defensive stance is born out of a long history of conflict, marginalization, and distrust between the Nagas and Meitei communities in Manipur. Here's an overview of how the Nagas of Manipur prepare to defend themselves. 1. Community vigilance. The Nagas have established community-based vigilance systems to monitor and protect their villages and territories. These systems often involve local volunteers who patrol the areas, keeping an eye out for any suspicious activities or potential threats from Meitei terrorist groups or other adversaries. 2. Self-defense forces. In response to the perceived threat posed by Meitei terrorist groups, some Naga communities have organized self-defense forces to protect their people and property. These forces are typically comprised of trained volunteers who are equipped to respond to any security challenges that may arise. 3. Cooperation with security forces. The Nagas often cooperate with security forces, such as the Indian Army and paramilitary groups, to address security concerns and maintain peace in the region. This collaboration may involve sharing intelligence, conducting joint patrols, or coordinating responses to security threats. 4. Fortification of villages. In areas where the threat of attack is particularly acute, Naga villages may be fortified with barriers, checkpoints, and other defensive structures to deter potential intruders and protect residents from harm. 5. Awareness and preparedness. The Nagas of Manipur remain vigilant and prepared for any potential security threats from Meitei terrorist groups. Community members are often educated about safety measures, emergency procedures, and the importance of remaining vigilant in the face of danger. 6. Advocacy and diplomacy. In addition to defensive measures, the Nagas also engage in advocacy and diplomacy to address the root causes of conflict and seek peaceful solutions to the ongoing tensions with Meitei terrorist groups. This may involve engaging with government officials, civil society organizations, and other stakeholders to promote dialogue, reconciliation, and conflict resolution. Overall, the Nagas of Manipur are committed to defending themselves and their communities from perceived threats posed by Meitei terrorist groups. Through a combination of community vigilance, self-defense forces, cooperation with security forces, fortification of villages, awareness and preparedness efforts, and advocacy and diplomacy, they strive to ensure the safety and security of their people while seeking peaceful solutions to the underlying issues driving the conflict. Addressing the underlying grievances of both communities, promoting dialogue and reconciliation, and working towards a political solution that respects the rights and aspirations of all stakeholders are essential steps towards resolving the conflict in Manipur. Only through inclusive and sustained efforts can the cycle of violence be broken and a lasting peace achieved in this troubled region.